Hi, everyone, and welcome back to In the Chair with Dr. Gina. This series is called Conversation Beyond the Chapter, where we explore companion conversations related to reading assignments in the course Foundations of Telemental Health. In our last conversation, we explored access, what that means, what that looks like. In this conversation, we're going to explore different telehealth technologies and what that looks like in real life practice. Everything from video conferencing, different platforms, telephone service, asynchronous communication, mobile apps, electronic forms, secure messaging, wearables, online interventions, and more. And if you're like most counselors in training or any of my students at this point in the course, you're probably wondering, which platform is best? And my favorite counselor type of answer is, which one do you think is best? And then the next logical question is, what are you basing that on? Because it all depends, right? I know, it's annoying, but it's true. It all depends. One of the things I've learned over the years is that sometimes we become fascinated by tools, the latest assessment, the latest online widget. I myself am enamored with being able to assess clients with the PHQ-9 and GAD-7 through digital forms. We want the perfect intervention to go with the perfect assessment, the perfect theory, the perfect telehealth platform, the perfect app, the perfect workflow. And yes, of course, all of these things matter and improve our workday to some degree. However, it seems like newer clinicians ask about technology, focus on the technology piece before they ask the human question. For example, instead of asking, what technology should I use? Maybe the better question is, what does this person need from me right now? It's likely once we can answer that question, the technology selection is easier. For example, the chapter talked about synchronous and asynchronous communication. Basically, synchronous is in real time talking together. Asynchronous means information is exchanged across time, like now. But what fascinates me more is what isn't in the definition. It's the decision making. Why might I choose video instead of telephone? Why might I choose secure messaging like through a platform app instead of a live conversation? Why might I choose to send my client an electronic worksheet rather than discussing something in session? Every communication, every choice communicates something. Every choice has strengths and limitations. One of the things I wish people knew earlier on in this process is that there is no perfect technology. And even if there were, it can only be perfect for a while before it fails in some way. Whether it's the technology itself, its connection to the internet, power source, whatever. Every technology solves one problem but creates another. Video is so fantastic because it allows us to see facial expressions. I'm able to have transformative moments with my client through this little dot, the eye of the camera. When I see an eye water, a lip tremble, a shift in tone, I can lean in and say, what's happening right now? And hold silence, hold space that they know I am with them in the special way that only counselors can do. This embodied withness, whether we're present in person or or through the screens, the connection remains. That is the key. So having that visual, being able to attend to this through this is fantastic. However, it may not work well for clients in a rural area or in an area that doesn't have high-speed internet. Or I'm licensed in Colorado and Oklahoma. Some of my Colorado clients up on a mountain during certain times of the year have poor connection. Sometimes we switch to telephone or use telephone for audio for backup. If we switch completely to telephone, so the connection we can still carry on, but now the visual information is lost. So again, there's this solving one problem, creating another. However, using the phone increases access or maintains access for those with internet issues, and definitely increases access for those that struggle with technology. Almost everyone can manage a phone call. Similarly, text messaging is very convenient. Who amongst us doesn't text, But it's a slippery slope with clients and can create boundary challenges. So again, solves a problem, creates a problem. Electronic forms, they save time. You can just click a button and they're off your desk to your client. Guess what? Clients don't always fill those out like that. And then there's the notion that it's a missed opportunity to engage with your client and go over the criteria together. I prefer to do that. I've had more than one client tell me it's different when you ask it than when I just get the form. I could go off on a whole other conversation on the meaning of that. There's always a trade-off. And being mindful and recognizing the trade-offs is part of becoming a thoughtful clinician in this digital space. I remember thinking early on in my telehealth career, just so excited to embrace the technology and, really solidly believing this is the gold standard, video technology, this is it. And then I started working with real people, building a practice online, building a caseload, and working with people with spotty internet, people in rural communities, people joining from parked cars. There's multiple issues with that. There's the fact that the client's calling from the parked car, which has its own sort of flow chart of yes, no's. Then there's the fact that the phone with the client one day overheated in the car. It was a hot summer day and they're on the charger and the phone overheated and shut down before our session was complete. These things happen. So if the phone, which is normally the backup, is the item that's shutting down and not working properly, what do you do? What's the backup plan? How do you navigate that? How do you help your client reduce their frustration, anxiety, even guilt and shame, which are always the low-hanging fruit in therapy and often rear their ugly heads in our clients' lived experiences. So looking at working down the list, people balancing childcare, that's a real issue. And being able to receive care in the digital space relieves a lot of that concern. People using older devices, not having current technology, or device and technology not matching up perfectly can cause issues. So what I learned is working with real people is it's not the perfect technology, it's the people doing the very best they can with what they have available. And as that sank in, I began to realize clinical excellence doesn't come from insisting on ideal conditions. It comes from making wise decisions in real conditions. Sometimes the perfect session isn't available, but sometimes the best available session is. And those are two very different things. One of my best sessions came from a technology failure. Because look, eventually, if you practice long enough, technology is going to fail. Your internet will go down. The client's internet will go down. The audio won't work right. The camera freezes. Someone's dog steps on a cord and unplugs something. And when it does, hopefully, that's when you'll discover something interesting. Clients aren't evaluating you. They're not judging you based on technology malfunctioning. They're evaluating you. They're judging you, I dare say, based on how you responded when it malfunctioned. What were you able to model in those moments? Did you panic? Did you get frustrated? Did you calmly shift to the backup plan? Having backup systems are really important. That's good clinical practice. But I'd like to add something else here. I'd like to add that your calmness, what you can model to your client in those moments, are also a part of the backup plan. Because often that's what our clients are working on. How to navigate changes in life, how to self-regulate better, how to cope when things don't go the way they want them to. Now, if you've spent any time with me, you know Adler is about to make an appearance. One of the things I appreciate about Adler is that he constantly redirected our attention towards purpose. Not just behavior, purpose. Not just what someone is doing, but what is it about that? And I think that's a useful lens for technology. The question isn't, what platform are you using? What platform is the best? The question is, what purpose is this technology going to serve? Does it increase access? Does it strengthen connection? Does it support treatment goals? Does it reduce barriers? Does it help this particular client receive the care they need? If the answer is yes, you're probably asking all the right questions. As counselors, sometimes we fall into the trap of believing better technology creates better therapy. But I don't think that's true. I think better therapists create better therapy. Technology simply expands the way we can deliver it. The technology matters. Privacy matters. Security matters. But at the end of the day, none of those things replace clinical judgment. And that's really what this conversation is about. Learning how to make thoughtful decisions about how technology can support the work that you already know how to do. As you move through this week's material, readings, lectures, reflections, I'd encourage you to think about this question. How do I decide which technology best serves the client in front of me? Not the ideal client, not the textbook client, the actual human being sitting across the screen. We'll keep exploring that together. As always, thank you for your time and attention. Be well. And until next time, when I meet you here in the chair.